Vaccinations. My son's in the audience out there, and they have, my kids have never seen a pediatrician. There's no camp they didn't get into. There's no school they didn't get into. There's nothing they couldn't do. And everybody realizes my kids are awful healthy. They've done well in school. Their brains haven't been addled. I never mentioned mercury. I didn't talk about all these additives. This is the part that's never been discussed. What are these things full of? They're full of viruses. Ibuprofen, Motrin, Advil, great painkillers used temporarily. I watch people not get out from under infection. I've had hospitals send me patients. I've had clinics send me patients with infections eating their legs away. How many Motrin do you take a day? I take 9. Your immune system's off. I have a family member, a close family member, that had a C-section. And after that C-section, which was a great C-section, emergency had to be done, came out of the hospital, and I said, she started to have some fevers and some headaches. I said, you were never like this before. What happened to you? She said, when I got out of that hospital, after that C-section, I walked out of that hospital with something I didn't have when I walked in. There's no such thing as minor surgery. So if you think things a minor operation, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. They cut inside of you and your system's suppressed. They hook you up to all that monkey business. You're not going to be the same. They don't got to cut into me. You're not cutting into me unless you have to. Poisoned air, water, and food. That'll be the next lecture. Toxic environments. Stress. Stress shuts off your immune system, so try to live on this food stressed out all the time. I've missed 3 days in 31 years, not because I'm healthy. I have to work at this constantly. Puck drops at 10. I got to keep going. Radiation. People that live, I have patients that have had so many CAT scans on growth plates, on growing children, sinus infections. 95% of my patients that come in proud with their CAT scans have had them for no reason whatsoever. Their insurance covered that. So when they said there's 30,000 people dying from CAT scans a year, that's what they said, not me. Is it the CAT scan or did that virus turn on? Which one is it? When I get done with this, Lou, you're going to start the car today because that's what I got Lou for. Judge, you're going to have to watch my back. Anything happens, Judge, I'm going to need you. Lou's going to start the car. You got to run interference for me because they're going to, my car, I'm never going to start it by myself again. Never. Never. You know? It's a stick, so you can't put an automatic car starter on a stick. Boom. Spangler, you're going to start the car. I'm going to hire you to start the car. Toxic family members. Work environments. I like to go into like a hair salon. What's it like to stand in a hair salon? And what's it like to go and, it's horrible. And it's like, why don't you just, if you own a hair salon, we all got to do something. Don't even bother getting a retirement program. There's no, save your money, have a good time. I mean, you better get your detox pathways working pristinely. I do this, I'm very aggressive on my detoxification pathways, but that's another lecture. Work environments, fear. I've talked about fear. You know what it's like to watch a bunch of people who live in Detroit their whole life? I consider me living in Detroit, grew up at 6 in Inkster. And you turn on the TV, and it's the Al-Qaeda, it's the Muslims, it's the blacks, it's the whites, it's the swine flu, it's the bird flu, it's the TSA, the guy's going to blow everything up. Turn on Fox News when you get home. You want to know what it's like to be terrified? Cops holding some guy on the ground with a gun to his head, and it just goes on and on and on. I have not raised my children in fear. We are a tough family. Just ask the Northville police. Anybody that's seen my earthing lecture, we are still well known in Northville. Our house was broken into. We grabbed the guns, grabbed the laptops, and tracked them down with a dot. Northville cop said, nobody does this. I said, yeah, you haven't ran into us yet either. I am dead serious. The patients. Rheumatoid arthritis. What do they look like? Attacks of random pain throughout the body, also a lot of inflammation, steroids and Topamax. A 20-year female, I know she's in the crowd because I saw her. I said, something's destroying your soul. Obviously, your body's under attack. 6 EBV, herpes 1 and 2. It took 3.5 months, and I'm going to put a list of the supplements that I use, and you got to be picky. It's a big list. You got to pick out, you got to be a professional muscle tester to find out that each of these cases is a unique lock that you got to play. Took 3.5 months. She has no rheumatoid pain. Living on steroids for 20 years, that shuts off your immune system. And when your immune system shuts off, what can happen with that funny little virus? 43-year-old female. This gal did something to do with the Super Bowl. A makeup artist at the Super Bowl. Nice gal. Body, muscle aches, constant move around. Patient concerns, weather change, fatigue, never feels rested. Had breast implants. Health has gone down since the surgery. CMV, Epstein-Barr, Parvo, 1, 2, and 6. She struggled a little bit to take this seriously. She's finally grabbed on and ran with it, and she's... Now all these people have to live the rest of their life with half an immune system. Go get a tetanus shot, go get a blood transfusion, get a flu shot, you turn this on. Go put another virus in your body and watch you start a cascade that you're not going to stop. She's doing outstanding. I'll show you the cocktail. A 41-year-old male, flu, pneumonia vaccines, lived overseas. This is a big shot at Ford Motor Company. This guy would be one of the big directors at Ford Motor Company. Very nice guy. He's on methotrexate and Plaquenil. I ask patients, do you know what House said about methotrexate? They're all confused about this one sick person, and one said to the other one, put him on methotrexate. Put him on methotrexate. And the camera, I can only say this because House said it, I can't say this because I don't count, it's the TV guy that counts. The camera comes right up here on him, and he looked in the camera and said, that's bottled death. Bottled death. I didn't say it. It has to be real because it's on TV and House said it. That's real. Gets his flu pneumonia shots, lived overseas. You start seeing these patterns. My missionaries, my Peace Corps workers, my travel vaccines. It took about, 3 months. Night sweats. A lot of these people have night sweats. Why? Your body's sick. There's a fever in it. Joints doing much better. The fever stopped. Now he's got all this stuff rolling around his body still. Rheumatoid arthritis, original swollen joints, difficulty walking, fatigue, muscle spasms, joint pain, fatigue. She moved from Albania in 1998. Started in 1998. You should see the vaccines to come to this country. She got this ever since she got her vaccines from Albania. Great gal. She's doing very well. Welcome to the United States of America. hepatitis A, hepatitis B, flu, B, meningitis, measles, meningococcal, mumps, pneumonia, pertussis, polio, rotavirus, rubella, tetanus, and diphtheria, and varicella. I'm staying home. I think I'll just stay home. I welcome the foreigners, welcome to my country. Now you're sick like the rest of us. Congratulations. You're home. Just call it your home. This is how you treat. This guy's in the crowd, and I see him here with his family. This is yours. Fibromyalgia, body pain, low back, now all over muscles. Now all these people are getting adjusted. I'm dealing with their skeletal issues while I'm dealing with the inflammatory issues. Patient was severely ill after his military vaccines. So what do you do when a vet comes back and he's been thoroughly poisoned from his military vaccines and he knows it? You put him on an antidepressant, you put him on Valium, you put him on Vicodin, you put him on another antidepressant, and I don't even know what that one is. Migranol, whatever that is. You're not sick, you're crazy. You must be crazy. Elavil, diazepam, Vicodin, Cymbalta. This guy was lucky. You're out there in the crowd, I see you with your wife, you lucked out. It's not this easy. This guy was in this week actually, and I was surprised. Cycles, headaches, and top of head 2 to 3 times a month. Headache lasts 45 minutes and sleepy. Of course, the MD says, you're not sick, you need an antidepressant. You need an antidepressant. I tell these patients, if I had a doctor like you, I'd be depressed too. I'd take an antidepressant. So he's on Zoloft. He lived in Haiti for a year on a mission trip. When headaches started, had all his travel vaccines. He was in for an adjustment this week. And he came in and he was tap dancing because he said, my headaches stopped and have never came back. Now this, I haven't seen him in a couple of years. So this guy was fortunate. It's still there, but this was, I guess, Monday. I said to Kelly, stick this guy in the list because I'm going to show you some that aren't winning. I'm going to show you some losers on this chart. Transverse myelitis. This poor gal, patient, and constant numbness, her whole body, she can't feel her feet. Things are weird. She's got Bell's palsy. Something's destroying her spinal cord. Now, she got a hepatitis A. I know her in-laws are in this crowd. Hepatitis A, B, tetanus, and typhoid vaccines for a mission trip to the Dominican Republic 3 years ago. How long has she had it? 3 years. I said to her, you did this to go to the Dominican Republic, right? She said, yes. And Dylan's good friend, Zach, and his parents go to Punta Cana every year in the Dominican Republic. It's a vacation destination, and they never got a shot to go there. Who sold you those to go to where we vacation at? Folks, it's a sea of ignorance out there. It's time to kick that brain in gear and think. Just think. Your health depends on it. Our future depends on it. They're stealing your country while we're sitting here. They stole your country while we're sitting here. Thank goodness that he's not here. He's in Alaska right now, right, or somewhere. I had to about staple his lips shut. He just couldn't shut up. I could not. Nice guy. The devil knows what he's doing. He takes out the missionaries. The people trying to make a change, he kills all them off. Dick Cheney's going to live forever. He needs some vaccinations. He just keeps going. His heart stops. It's dead. 67 heart attacks. He's Satan's little sock puppet, but it's the missionaries that get sick. His heart's gone, dead. It just keeps going. Good people croak, and he just keeps on a-rolling. I don't understand. I think he's going to live to 1,000. Raping and pillaging every step of the way. Numb, tingling hands, feet, MS, blah, blah, blah. Missionaries, been all over the world, and get mono, then get those travel vaccines on top of mono. The nurses had been creamed. Nurses creamed. Flu shot for work, 2 out of 3 Gardasil vaccines, muscles ache, joints ache. Neurologist said it was post-vaccine syndrome. Had CMV in the past, gets cold sores, shoulder, fog, tension. She's 32. The previous generation with those big nasty viruses got cancer. These younger people are they're getting better at taking the real bad vaccines. These are just the light ones. I don't know what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe you next generation of doctors, and there's a ton of them out there, you can mop up the mess when I'm done. And I don't think she followed through with what we wanted to do. Autoimmune hepatitis. She's in the crowd with her parents. Autoimmune hepatitis. Autoimmune hepatitis. Every time I get one of these, the hepatitis B vaccine, liver enzymes 400 to 700, had the hepatitis vaccine, your body's not going to attack itself unless you did something to it. Her enzymes are doing good. She's going to have to watch this. That liver has been, her immune system's been altered. It's not the same. This is a 69-year-old nurse. She's been a great patient. The older nurses are great patients. What they've seen, they don't want to do it anymore. So she came in, 2/22/11. She said, I don't know how I got this. I have autoimmune hepatitis. Her liver enzymes are up. So I asked her questions. She said, I had a horrible reaction to the hepatitis B vaccine 17 years ago. This is how they get away with it. They're slow viruses. They're quiet. They're slow. They move slow. So by the time my friend's getting brain tumors, it's 30 years after the vaccination. This is what she did in 2 months. She's got her liver enzymes down to 35 and 36. You're going to have to watch this. 27 years old, warm joints, autoimmune inflammation, colitis. I've walked into these rooms and tell people, you're a missionary or a junkie. Well, how can you tell? Well, you must be a missionary because you don't look like a junkie. I said, well, what does that have to do with anything? I said, where have you been? Well, Africa, Haiti, somewhere. Well, yeah, I went to Africa. This is what they look like. Heart palpitations, go back to the night sweats. This is how they're going to live. 999,000 out of 1 million are going to live like this because they're never going to get to somebody who knows what they're doing. This is their life. And they're going to be croaked off early because they're going to put them on antidepressants, which shut off your immune system, give them Vicodin, that'll make them an addict, talk them into getting more vaccinations, and just croak them off quicker. And Dick Cheney's going to live forever. Start a phony war and put your company in charge of it with a no-bid contract. I'm still after him for that. We're broke because of these yo-yos. And I'm not an Obama fan. Every time I pick on Cheney, somebody comes in and says, I didn't know you were a Democrat. I didn't know I was a Democrat either. The words for these diseases are precious. Inclusion body myositis. This guy comes from Traverse City. I did not think I was going to get this guy because he had the ultraviolet treatments to sterilize his bloodstream, and that didn't work, and those are expensive. I found 3 viruses. This has been he's done well. I adjust this guy every couple months. I'm surprised. I did not think this guy was going to. This is a famous radio host from California. She flew in to see us, and she was all worked up. She'd been to a ton of doctors in California. Somebody told her to come and see me. In fact, for you folks, Bernardo told her to come and see me. Some of you folks know who he is or was. And the point was, I said, you don't have MS, you got mono. She had an out-of-control mono. And this is 4 months later. Now the point is, she, no pain, weakness, or tingling, night sweats have stopped. She feels rested, she can sleep through the night. She told Mitt Romney's wife to come and see me because she's got MS. So this was, you know, to see like Mitt Romney's wife, I don't think Mitt Romney has enough money to come and see me. It's all gone. It's in some foreign place, and he's in like a 14% tax bracket or something. My paper boy's in like a bigger one, but I don't really think he's got the money to actually come and see me now. So just have to use your insurance, I guess. Tingling in arms and legs. These are the same patterns. Left side of the face. This lady's in the crowd today. She's excited. Epstein-Barr, herpes 6, simplex, etc. 47-year-old, joint pain all over, started after chemo. This is a big shot at U of M. She's very surprised at her results. 56-year-old female. Right side of her body's numb at night, tingling behind shoulder blade, her legs are weak, swelling. Migraines behind eyes with lots of headache patients have viruses. You can spot them. The whole head hurts. They get that virus, the whole head hurts. My whole head hurts. This story is going to get back to her because this church, she used to contort. And she'd go into this weird spasm right in front of me and contort her whole face up. And right in front of me, she twisted all up. And I said to her, there's a virus attacking the nerve in the side of your face. I went in, I got her on, I had her chew 6 Calma Plus and take 3 lysine, and it stopped. And the whole face relaxed. And after that, I ran the panel. She only had 1 face spasm. This was mono. This whole church has watched her stop contorting up. I got lucky on this one. Everybody thinks it's a miracle, and I think it was a small miracle. Cluster headaches, extreme pressure. This guy runs a tool shop. He's on 9 medications. Very nice guy, easy to get along with. Numbness, tingling. Now see, here's a lady with headaches, body fatigue, numbness and tingling, gets her yearly flu shots. So this is headaches, fatigue, can't get out of bed, body aches, numbness. So what do they put her on? Prozac, Klonopin, and Excedrin. These people don't have a chance. This lady's in the crowd today. She was in actually today. Lost balance, right side of her head. Dr. Wisely said, we think there's a virus and some nerve damage in your ear. It's actually in her brain. But Parvo, Epstein-Barr, herpes 6. She was in I think this week. She can't believe it. Her balance is back. The head pressure's gone. Now, the Japanese stopped vaccinating some of their children because they were all falling asleep. They said there's some kind of sleeping sickness. It's not sleeping sickness. They put that Epstein-Barr CMV virus inside of them. Now they're all falling asleep. She's in the crowd. I saw her out there. I'm amazed that these people can hold jobs feeling this crappy, because I, sometimes don't want to come in not feeling this crappy. I have some great doctors to work with, Brownstein, Nussbaum, and Ng. They've been great guys to work with. He came in, and I said, go back to Nussbaum or Ng, and I want you to run every viral test you can run. So it came back, EBV, CMV, herpes 1, 2, and 6. And the guy came in, he's had stem cell therapy, he's done all kinds of things. And he says to me, how did you know this? You're a genius. How could you possibly find this? I can't believe that you figured this out. This is a miracle. I didn't tell you anything. You figured this out. You found this, etc., etc. I said, for Pete's sakes, You said you had herpes. You said you had mono at 2 and 14, and you had Bell's palsy. I said, you told me everything. That's what's attacked. And and he said he traveled the world. He traveled the world. And when he came back after getting all his travel vaccines, this is how he came back. I'd rather stay in Detroit. I like to go down every once in a while, visit the Fist, hi to the Fist, drive back out to Northville, and no shots to do that. Just put the 45 in the car and off we go. I do have a 45 in the car. This poor gal breaks my heart. She's a teacher. She's sliding down the rabbit hole. Legs on fire. She was on crutches. Now she's in a wheelchair. I'm absolutely losing. I'm trying to get her to get on disability. This thing's so deep inside her spinal cord. I'm not. She's trying to teach school like this. It's a mess. This kid, you'll see this kid in a hall. He's on a walker. He's all twisted up. It looks like maybe it's polio, but we can't use that word because we cured that. Now we have Guillain-Barré and all these other ones. If you saw him walk, him and his mom come in, he's all twisted up. Smart kid. His viral panel's a mess. And if you look at the literature, they say acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. If they tell you that, you won't know what it is. But the National Multiple Sclerosis Society says, it's probably from a vaccination or an inoculation. I'll take the measles next time. This young gal came in, myasthenia gravis, double vision, weakness of both arms, leg, fatigue. He fell on ice, couldn't get up, fell down the stairs, fatigue worse. Gave her these IgG shots, then steroids. Then they took out her thymus. Man, I want my thymus taken out. Then they gave her aseptic meningitis, cycles, fevers, swollen glands. She's poor, she's sick. She's going to need a lifetime of care. I sent her to get her blood sterilized with that ultraviolet procedure because I think she's in deep trouble. Lupus, fingers, hands, body hot to the touch with burning feet. You can always spot that liver when it starts to act up. Almost done here. This gal, now, I had a famous medical doctor that I've named already. One of his colleagues sent her to me. They couldn't figure out why she's collapsing. I asked her my questions, transfusions, vaccinations, travel vaccines. She got 2 blood transfusions. She's on this. She's sliding down the rabbit hole. I'm concerned that she might not get out of this mess. As you go backwards, I sent her to try to get her blood sterilized with that ultraviolet procedure. Great guy. I missed this guy. 60, he was about 66 at the time, 66-year-old executive, very successful, wanted to go on safari, saved his money, went to Africa on a safari, got all the travel vaccines, came back, had acute myelogenous leukemia 3 weeks after getting back from Africa. That's fatal. He chose not to do anything. He rode the train all the way down to the ground, and he's dead. And you're not going to get out of this one either. And as hematologist said, somebody did something to you that destroyed your bone marrow. Yes. These foods aggravate viruses. Try to get the antiviral diet to the patients. These really irritate viruses. Sunflower seeds. Have a mono patient, wake up and have a bowl of oatmeal. Eat some corn. All this stuff is going to get you. Chocolate, almonds, brown rice, Brussels sprouts, or anything high in arginine is going to aggravate that virus. I watch people cough eating corn. A staff member can't eat onions. A family member can't eat almonds, peanuts, and they know it stirs up the virus. Lysine helps shut it off. You got to take your lysine in the morning, your calcium at night, calcium herpes in the gut. These calcium people. Now, for the doctors in the crowd, this is not, I didn't put the pills on the cases because it's not a one-size-fits-all. You have to know how to test some way. Versandol, Good Heart, Van Rump. There's some muscle testing. There's some dowsing. You better be a professional tester because those people took between probably 3 and 6 or 7 things to kill that virus on the ones. I asked my staff members I asked my back staff members, how well are we doing with these viruses? How are we doing with these autoimmune cases? And Kelly and Amy said, we're getting 80% of them. They said we're getting 80%. Now, all these crippled up people that are, in wheelchairs and have really messed up, there's only so much you're going to get back. I mean, there's a limitation to this matter, and I hate to say that, it's just the way it is. Not to give people artificial hope like that kid on that walker. He's got some atrophy. But this combination, learning to use this combination, you start to see patterns. What viruses respond to what things, et cetera, et cetera. Good. Immune support, T cells, B cells. I'm very aggressive on my immune system because, like I said, it's a merry-go-round in my body trying to keep these things from landing. From Maurice Hilleman, the Merck scientist. This is good to read. It's 9:24. I forgot to take I have a hockey game tonight, actually. I'm supposed to take my heart pills at 9 because everybody that comes in my age that plays hockey, somebody croaked on the ice. I don't plan on being one of them. Now, this last little ending, it took me a while to be able to do this. My life has changed since this last meeting in some strange ways. My mother's not here tonight. This is like the first meeting she missed because she passed away since my last lecture. Now, a lot of you folks don't know this, but I've been treating my mother for like 22 years for her heart. Her heart would like to flutter. I've sent her to U of M to get that ablation done. Dr. Marati said she doesn't need it. 2 other cardiologists locally that I've used, she's been screened and says, really nothing you can do for this. So I've treated this for 22 years, and it would just kind of flutter and go in and out of rhythm. January 26th, but I think the 25th, I get a phone call, and her heart's beating funny. So she comes into the office, and man, this thing is jumping around. And it's not settling down. So, hoping it would jump back in rhythm, Wednesday, I get home from hockey at about midnight, and my wife says, call your dad. So I call him, Randy, I don't feel good. Comes in Thursday morning. Her heart was jumping all over the place. So I called a great MD in Northville. I said, look, I need you to take a look at this. This thing is, for the first time, is not jumping back in rhythm. He said, I'm honored that you would send your mother to me. I said, I want you to. So she went straight there. He sent me the EKG. The top of the heart was beating 160. The bottom was beating 70. She was an AFib. That's why these young kids die. That's why these marathon runners die. That's what Joey Harrington, this is very common in the children today. The guy that made the layup in that high school game, and he croaked when they held him on his shoulders. He sends me the EKG. I send it. I take one look at this. He says, we got to send her to the hospital. I said, yes, we have to send her to the hospital. So I said, see, send her where you think it would be best. And he sent her to a hospital in Livonia. After work on Thursday, as soon as I got off work, I went to the hospital. My wife, my son, my dad are at the hospital. So I walk in, feel her pulse, it's beating perfectly. Your heart's beating perfectly. I said, let's get you out of here. So the emergency room doctor comes in. I said, her heart's beating perfectly. He said, I know, I cardioverted it. I looked at my parents. I said, you didn't tell me this. He said they didn't know. I put her to sleep quickly. Your son had your father out of the room. I paddled her and woke her up. She didn't even know I did it. Let's take her home. He said, I'd like her to stay the night. Fine. Stay the night. Everything's fine. How much could go wrong now that everything's back in rhythm? So, the middle of the night, she throws her first clot into her heart. I had her on enough fish oil to give her the runs. I had her on enough aspirin. We had her chewing aspirin, trying to keep that blood thin, because AFib can be a problem. You know, I've been playing that hard as I can for 22 years, because everybody says you just kind of got to watch this. So I go there after work on Friday. They want to move her to Oakmont because they have some stent procedure. We think your mother should have this stent, and Oakmont does a better job than we do. So I follow the ambulance to Oakmont. We get her in the room. We're ordering dinner. She's fine, my normal mother, and she strokes out right in front of me. And I watch this, trying to figure out what's going on here. So they said, we're going to do a CAT scan tonight, and we'll let you know in the morning. So the next day, this is Saturday morning, so the next day they call me, your mother's had quite a major stroke. And none of this is making any sense to me. I have a friend that's a nurse anesthetist. He's my age, he's done it for 30-some years. He calls me. I said to him, Calvin, what just happened to my mother? He said, tell me the story. I told him. He said, who did the cardioversion? I said, the ER doctor. He said, he whacked her. I said, what do you mean he whacked her? He said, a cardiologist wouldn't have done that. I said, what would a cardiologist have done? He said, you do an echo on the heart, the transthoracic echo. You check that upper chamber for clots. You thin down the blood. You do the echo again. And when the clots are gone, you paddle the heart. He didn't check her for clots. I said, so you mean? So I cornered this great cardiologist. Oakwood Hospital did a great job. They were wonderful. I cornered this cardiologist in the corner. He was a great guy. I said, look, he'd heard about, we've had some contacts with similar people. We knew all the same people. I said, look, I need to ask you a question. I'm not Sam Bernstein's relative, and Jeffrey Feiger's not my cousin. I said, did that guy whack my mother? He said, probably. So my mother just missed, she was dying to see this lecture. I never thought I'd have a story like this, because all day and all my life, people come in and talk about their relatives being whacked at a hospital. So she was dying to actually see this lecture. So, Mom, and just to leave you with a pleasant thought, like I said, I got to be on the ice in exactly 30 minutes. Just to leave you with a high note to make you feel better about the future. The Texas Department of State Health Services decided to start dropping rabies out of the planes on the ground. Let's see you dodge this one.
I managed to catch up to Dr. Gallo at the 11th International Conference on AIDS in Vancouver in 1997. I asked him if he was concerned that some of his experiments might have given rise to the AIDS virus or AIDS virus relatives that might have contaminated monkeys and chimpanzees shipped by Lytton to the Merck's vaccine division in New York for the production of the earliest hepatitis B vaccines. Here is the exchange Dr. Gallo eventually apologized to me for. He was obviously aggravated.
Do you have any concern that your early experiments in taking simian virus 40 in the presence of simian foamy retroviruses and recombining them with cat leukemia and chicken leukemia sarcoma viruses might have given rise to HIV or its relatives following their culture in human tissues? and that these mutants could have contaminated some live viral vaccines produced in contaminated monkeys and chimps supplied to vaccine manufacturers through your affiliates at Lytton Bionetics?
Quite frankly, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'll cite your paper, Dr. Gallo.
If you can, you've got a paper. You've got a paper that I don't know I ever published.
Okay.
I'd sure like you to cite it. Would you begin?
I'd be happy to. National Academy of Sciences, 1970, Gallo et al. It was an oral presentation that you presented before NATO and NATO audiences in Mol, Belgium. You published it. It's in the National Academy of Sciences. I'll be happy to show you the paper.
Stop. I mean, this is beyond asinine. In Mol, Belgium, my first trip to Europe, so I can remember it, a NATO meeting did take place. NATO meetings fund all scientific meetings all over the world, even East-West at that time. Biologic meetings, scientific chemistry meetings, all kinds of meetings. Meetings about motherhood, fatherhood, everything. And when I talked about in Mol, Belgium, was in the 1960s, long before gene cloning took place, before I ever worked in virology. What I talked about was cellular transfer RNA. Okay, and that's Mol, Belgium. Proceedings in the National Academy of Science, an SB40. I never published a paper in my life. An SB40, except the transfer RNA species. In SB40 transformed hamster cells compared to non-transformed cells as a control. You've got pineapples, kiwis, grapes, and cherries mixed in with some other tutti frutti. I don't know what in the hell you're talking about.
And excuse me.
I'm a little bit tired of this kind of nonsense.
Okay.
Crap.
And Gallo, Sarin et al. Were Lytton Bionetics researchers were your co-authors in which you combined cat leukemia and chicken sarcoma viruses to create to evaluate the leukemia
Yes,
sarcoma complex models.
I'm really smart. Yes, we did it. Everything was created by us working in the laboratory. Look, just for those with some little bit of understanding of this, who care about this kind of idea. I mean, I've had a lot of things said, but I've never had anything quite like that one. There were people who thought and made postulations that, and it was not actually directed at me, this is a good one, a new one, but that HIV could have been created in laboratory experiments. There are two answers to that are definitive, conclusive, that no scientist could have deliberately created them unless he was a super genius and 10 years ahead of his time. The AIDS virus definitively existed long before molecular cloning. That's point one. Point two, we know the full sequence, the genome of HIV. It was published by our lab in 1985 and by a group from Paris around the same time. The genome has no homology to any known existing virus in the world, except SIV discovered after it. Has nothing to do with cats, has nothing to do with chicken sarcoma viruses. SV40 is a DNA virus that comes from little animals that can transform cells in culture, has no sequences in HIV. Further, we never worked with SV40 with those viruses together, and if we did, the whole thing would be irrelevant. And I think you need to begin with Biology 101 high school, okay?
These documents, including the U.S. government contracts, best explain how AIDS emerged on two far-removed continents in black Africans and gay New Yorkers by 1978. These were precisely the populations that received the first hepatitis B vaccines produced in Lytton's chimpanzees just 4 years earlier. By the way, the man sitting to Dr. Robert Gallo's right is Dr. Jonathan Mann. At the time, Dr. Mann was the AIDS czar for the World Health Organization. Not long after Dr. Mann witnessed my exchange with Gallo, he quit his most esteemed position, saying, quote, far more than a medical problem, AIDS is a socio-political imposition, end quote. If I am right, and these documents are legitimate, then generally trusted vaccines, the sacred cow of public health, given mostly to our nation's youth, said to have contributed most to conquering infectious diseases, are alternatively the world's worst curse and nightmare. The third and final document in this stunning sequence comes from the same National Cancer Institute. and National Public Health Service report. Here is the historic account of American biologists and virologists transferring the most sophisticated bioweapons of mass destruction to Soviet scientists during the Cold War. Even though, as Dr. Kano accurately states, the Russians were developing their biological weapons programs at rocket speed. These documents provide conclusive evidence that the NCI's molecular biologists, including Dr. Robert Gallo, traded America's most advanced secrets in bioweapons production with precise methods and materials for cancer induction, genocidal weapon preparation, and bacteriological and virological bioterrorism with their Russian counterparts and others during the Cold War, from the Gulf War, called Gulf War Syndrome. The Senate thoroughly investigated this subject in 1994 and published proof that our troops were unwittingly used experimentally, or alternatively, targeted for disease and death by the vaccine makers with official political consent. Spreading across America and the world now is a flu-like illness that resists standard medical treatments. You probably know people suffering with severe recurring respiratory ailments experts have linked to an agent called mycoplasma. In fact, chronic fatigue, low body temperature, and a flu that keeps coming back is associated with this germ isolated and patented by the United States Armed Forces Institute of Pathology in a patent shown here. This agent, mycoplasma, apparently contaminated the anthrax vaccine given to more than 500,000 American troops that served in the first Gulf War. Dr. Kano from the Centers for Disease Control applauds this invention. This next government document was obtained by lawyers for the victims I just described. Here you can see the array of biological weapons being tested on the prisoners in Texas as overseen by Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor, at that time, boasted having George H.W. Bush serving on their board of directors. The dates listed here also coincide with the alleged transition of America's offensive biowarfare program to defensive. Notice the mycoplasma. Both defensive and offensive studies were conducted, a vaccine study and a hall study, in which prisoners were actually exposed to this airborne agent